Welcome to part 4 of a KeySmash Studios Unreal tutorial. This week we'll be doing something fairly simple. We'll be making it to where the items pop up in our little inventory over here whenever we pick them up, and it'll show which one's selected and which one's not. In the previous episode, I created items that you could pick up, as well as an inventory for those items to go into. Since that episode, I edited the colliders of the objects that we can pick up are sitting in, because previously the collider was just around the whole object instead of following the mesh. So I did that off screen because that's pretty boring to watch, but that's just why they're no longer popping out whenever I click play. So to begin, I took pictures of the items and we'll just drop those into, we'll just drop it into this. And these are simply just images, so that way whenever we pick up the item, it shows on the side which item is in which space. So to begin, we'll go ahead and go to our GUI, and we're going to create a new widget. And we'll just name this widget Item Display. And this will just display the image of the item that we've picked up. We want to make this custom 100 by 100, and then we'll drop an image into it, and we'll name this one background, and we're going to make it black, and then we're also going to make this 100 by 100. We're going to drop another image into it, and we're going to name this one item image. And then we're going to make this one 75 by 75, and then we'll go ahead and center it. And then we're going to go over to our graph, and we're going to create a new variable. We'll call this item, and we're going to make it an inventory item. And then we need to compile the script. And then we'll go back over to the designer and then make sure you're on item image. And we're going to go over here and we're going to bind the item's image. So that way anytime one of these is generated, it'll take the item that's in that position and put its image there. So we'll compile and save this. And then we'll go back to the items database. And mine auto-filled them in when I imported them, but just to make sure that yours did too and that they're in the correct area. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go to our inventory GUI. And we're going to need to do a few things. The first thing we're going to do is name all these image white and image black. And essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a white background when the object is selected, and then I will have a black background when the object is not selected. So each space needs to have one of each. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste these. Make sure you're clicking on the canvas panel when you paste it, and then we'll just move them, we'll rename them first and then move them down to match the spot of the white one. And then we'll change all of these images to black. So after we have all of our boxes, we want to get a wrap box. And this will be used to clear and display our items. And we'll just name this inventory box. And one thing you want to make sure you do is check is variable, and then just compile and save that, and then go on into the graph. So now that we're here, we're going to create two functions. One will be called load items, and the other will be called display selected item. And we'll start with the load items. And to begin, we want to get that wrap box, so we'll just type in inventory box and we want to get it. And we want to clear all of its children, so if there's anything in there already, we want to make sure everything is cleared for every time we update our inventory. Oh, somehow I didn't go over to load inventory. So we'll just do what we just did. And then from there, you want to create a for each loop. And this for each loop will be creating a widget. And the type of widget it'll be creating will be the item display. And then from there, we want it to add to our inventory box. And its content will be the widgets from our for each. So now we want to make sure that the owning player is our player controller. So from here we want to go over and create a cast to our character controller. And we want this to be a pure cast. So you just make it a pure cast. And then the object that we want to get is a player character. And then we're wanting the inventory array so that way we can iterate through that and put them into our widgets. So you can go ahead and compile and save here. And that's our load items functionality. So we'll go to display selected item. And for this one, I'm just going to go over how to start it, but I won't go all the way through it because it's pretty copy paste. So for the first thing you want to do is create another cast. This one won't be pure. And then you want to get a player character. From here you want to get inventory I. Which is the current item in the inventory that we're on. And then we want to create a switch of ints. And then we'll go connect this. We'll be basing it off whatever inventory I is. And then we're going to create 5 pins, which are the 5 possibilities that our user can be on. So essentially what you'll be doing is for each one, you'll be setting the visibility of all the different items that we have. So for 0, that means that we want the image white to be visible, and we want the image black of all the other buttons to be visible. And this will set all of the backgrounds to black except for the one that we have selected, which would be 0. And then from there, what we want to do is we want to set another visibility, and this time do the reverse. So this time we want it to collapse, and then we want to get the image black of 0. And the image whites of the rest. And set all of these to collapsed. And basically what this is doing is whenever your eye for your inventory is on 0, that's the item that you're currently wielding, it goes through and sets the visibility of these images in your GUI to visible, so the one of them will have a white and the rest will just have the plain black background, and then it'll go back through and set the black image to collapsed and all of the white images to collapsed on the ones you don't have selected. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this out for all 5 inventory slots and then just start up once that's done. Okay, so I've finished setting this up. As you can see, it's sort of spaghetti code, but it just does the same thing that this top one did, except it rotates through which one's selected and which one's not for all of the different pins within our switch. So that's the display. Make sure you compile and save. And then from there we need to go to our event graph, and this is just kind of when we're calling these functions. So we're going to begin by having our inventory display on construct. So we're going to set the visibility to collapsed for all of our background black images. And this is just to make sure that everything from the get-go is collapsed and nothing's going to happen to be showing. And then from there we'll go ahead and call our load inventory items function. And that's going to do it whenever the scene begins. Now for loading our inventory, we want to make sure we do that anytime a new item is picked up or removed. So for that, we're going to have to go into our code for our character controller. Okay, now that our code has loaded, we're going to go to the header. And we're going to create 2 new properties. And we want these to be edit anywhere and blueprint read write. And we're going to name the first one just picked up, and it's going to be a bool. And then we'll just copy this. And then the second one is going to be just removed. We'll save that. And we need to create some functions. So we're going to create a function that returns a bool and is going to be called get picked up. And then we're going to create another function that will also return a bool and will be called get removed. For both the functions we just created, we need to make sure that they are blueprint callable. Now we can go to our CPP and create these. And this is simply just going to return our new property called just picked up. And then our other one will do the same for just removed. And then you can go ahead and get out of this and compile your code. So now that our compile has completed, we can go back to our inventory. And from our event tick, we're going to display our selected items. And then we're going to cast to a character controller. And get our player character. The reason for this is so that we can get our picked function and create an if statement. That pulls in the return value of whether we just picked something up, and if it's true, we want to load our inventory again. And if it's false, we want to cast and if it's false, then we want to check our removed function. So we'll go ahead and create that remove function from our previous cast and connect it to our false branch. And then we want to create another branch from this one and connect its condition to the return value of removed. And then if it's true, we want to load our items. And if it's false, we want to just go ahead and finish execution. So we'll go ahead and compile this and save this. And then we can get out of that and we can play. And as you can see, it shows which one you have selected as we rotate through it. And then when we pick things up, let me figure out why it's not doing that real quick. Okay, so I figured out the issue. You'll need to go over to your item display widget, go to the graph, and then you need to make sure to go to your item and expose on spawn. So that way you can drag the array element to the item portion of the item display widget. So just compile that and save that, and make sure you compile this when you change that. So after you make sure it's exposed on spawn, we'll also need to go back to our code, and then we're going to go to our add to inventory, and then we need to make sure that we put just picked up to true. And then we can go back to inventory, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take the cast and we're going to use it to set picked up to false. And then we're going to do the same thing for just removed. And set those to false. And then we'll compile that and save that. And then we'll compile the code. And then when we play and go to pick up items, it'll pop up here. Now what we want is it to correspond, obviously, with this. So we'll want to go into our inventory area and into the designer. So to begin with, we're going to make the padding between it about 70-ish. And then we're going to just squeeze this down a little so that way it spawns, because it'll spawn right here to begin with. So we want it to be in the general area. And then we'll compile this, and I actually have my things backwards. So we're just going to change their position with the beginning one. And I'll do that real quick and then just come back. Okay, so I just swapped these around so it goes from top to bottom now instead of bottom to top, since the inventory wrap box fills from top to bottom. So we'll go ahead and compile this and we'll play. And then as you can see, it fills in to the areas. And obviously 70 isn't perfect, so you might want to bump it down to like 69 or 68. But as you can see, it shows which one we're currently holding. And you can fiddle around to make it fit tighter. In this episode, we attached our inventory to our GUI, and in the next episode, we'll be doing all things blacklight, which will be poster switching out when you point the blacklight at it, as well as attaching a light to the blacklight item itself. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe, see you next time.